Hi there. Welcome to the Daiku podcast and our Krampus charity live stream. And with me, as always, is Logar. Welcome, Logar.
Hello, I am Logar the Barbarian.
Well, we wanted to take this opportunity. The holiday season is upon us, and it's a really good time to do a little bit of giving and a little bit of fundraising for charity. And so we are going to be doing our, as I mentioned, Krampus charity live stream. And I've had a few comments about how creepy this Krampus is. And I think somebody on a Discord server said that it just like was giving them nightmares. So hopefully not too bad. But he does watch you when you're sleeping. And he knows when you're awake.
He's got a very goblin-esque look to his face. When I first discovered Krampus, he seemed like a big furry suit people running around in. I wrote a story about Krampus once.
Yeah, he's actually kind of fairly recent. I don't know, like when Krampus came into like the public eye as far as like a thing.
Well, he got really popular a few years back. Prior to that, he was just kind of like an isolated thing. And where was it that he was like? They would do the running of the Krampus for Christmas somewhere. I don't think it was the Ukraine, but somewhere in Europe. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not great with it.
Sounds like could be a German thing.
So yeah.
Cool. So, Logar, for the very few people that probably don't know about you, just tell us a little bit about what you do at Wobblies and Wizards.
Well, Wobblies and Wizards, we're a role-playing game blog. Podcast. I'm podcasting. I used to blog. I used to be a blogger years ago. I made this transition. I kind of changed the subject matter and went over to doing more game stuff when we did the podcast. We do a daily RPG podcast. I'm a Wobbly. Member of the IWW. So like one of the things about it is like it's kind of intended, like the whole idea behind it is we do a quick 15-minute morning podcast for your ride to work. So, you know, as a working class guy, it's like, I'd like to listen to some game stuff on my ride to work every morning. So it's a daily podcast, and we talk to a lot of guests, and Light and I look at a lot of dungeon mags and talk about a lot of game stuff every day.
Well, it's super cool. I listen to it daily, and we were just talking before we went on the air. Like, there's the podcast Word Rap, or what is it, Rap 22, whatever it's called. And anyways, I'm sure that you're going to be at the top of my list. I'll be one of your top listeners. So,
I got tagged by a few people who I was at the top of their list. I really appreciate that. It's very encouraging to hear. I'm very thankful. So if you're listening to our podcast, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. It's very helpful.
Yeah, and that goes without saying. I think there's a lot of people out there that do podcasts or videos or whatever, and they do appreciate. I appreciate. Logar appreciates when you reach out and just say, "Hey, thanks for what you're doing." And speaking of that, I was lucky enough to reach 1,000 subs just last month here on the YouTube channel. So. As Logar said, thank you very much for all the people that have tuned in over time and joined up and shared the little journey of designers and sharing their stories and how they make games. And hopefully, if you're an aspiring designer, that you've actually learned a few things. I certainly have. So it's been a fun year because it's about how long I've had the channel up, and as well as I replay the videos on my podcast. So you're also welcome to subscribe there. I'm not at Logar's level on podcasts with the daily, which I still can't believe you do, but it's amazing.
Well, and I listen to yours on the Spotify. I don't listen to it on YouTube. I'm sorry.
Well, you're missing out on all the visuals in my pretty face.
Right? Actually, Spotify has them.
Yeah, I actually take the videos from YouTube and I just repurpose them for Spotify, so you can watch on Spotify as well.
If I got it on there, I can't look at it either, though, because I'm usually busy doing something else. So cool. I miss the faces most of the time.
So what are we doing here today? It's a charity live stream, and let's talk about what we're raising some money for. And first of all, Logar, tell us about your charity.
Schools for Chiapas. Yeah, it's a thing I'm into. I got all kinds of swag. This shirt I got from Schools for Chiapas and this hat. And I also got a couple little homemade dolls from the people of Chiapas. And what they do is they raise money for the folks in Chiapas, Mexico. If you're not familiar with the EZLN and the Zapatistas, they Around 94, they kind of became public. They had some conflict. Indigenous folks were being pushed off their land, like, the history of this country has been. And they stood up to the Mexican and the U.S. government and have maintained sort of an autonomous region where they self-organize. Schools for Chiapas does a lot of good for the people in Chiapas. They focus on things like farming, healthcare, medication, lately COVID, and education for the people in the area. You can go to the Schools for Chiapas site itself and support them anytime. They like one of the things you can do is like they have shirts and hats and stuff like that, and dolls that they make there in Chiapas. The folks there make. They even sometimes you can get boots, like leather boots and stuff. If I'm not sure if they're available or not right now. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. But that's a way that you can support them in their community. The money goes to the community. They get to decide where in their community where these things go to help, or you can even say, oh, I want this to go to help specifically for healthcare or something like that if you want to. And it's a cause that I really believe in. If you're curious to learn more, I mean, there's quite a few books out there talking about them. The Chiapas Rebellion, The Struggle for Land and Democracy by Neil Harvey is one that was pretty interesting to check out. Wobblies and Zapatistas by, who wrote that? I'm sorry, I'm not going to attempt to read names right now. I need to get my glasses. And then one of the ones that I really got into is Yabasta. It is actually written by the writings of Marcos, who was heavily involved in the organizing there in Chiapas, Mexico. So it's something I've been passionate about for many years. It's one of the things that I tend to try to send my money to the folks of Chiapas when I have extra money. So I encourage you to do so and check out the Schools for Chiapas website, which is schoolsforchiapas.org. If you Google it, it'll probably be the first thing to pop up.
Yeah, it definitely is. And we have the link in the video description. So be sure to check it out. And my charity of choice is Doctors Without Borders, which is a really good organization. You have doctors that are volunteering to go overseas and across the world, and they are doing like really good work, especially in war-torn areas like the Ukraine right now. And if you look up the charity itself, it's got a 5-star rating because a lot of that money goes right directly to the action. There's not a lot of overhead. There's not a lot of marketing money, and that's always something that I look for in a charity, is that the money goes to where it's supposed to go to, and not just for marketing and overhead. So anyways, Doctors Without Borders, I'm in Canada, so my link will be to the Canadian one. And with that said, today we're asking you to help out. If you look, you can donate through your super chats and stickers. If you want to give a little bit of money, we are going to match $50 each towards our charity of choice. So if you donate as a group $50, we will donate and match that up to $50. And whatever excess we have, we will just donate right to them. So this is your chance to also give back during the holiday season and support a charity. So if you look in the chats, there's an ability to add that. And all the money, once again, goes to these two charities.
Excellent.
So, but what are we also going to be doing here today is we're going to be talking about our favorite games of the year and our wish list for the holiday season, because maybe there's somebody out there that's thinking about buying the game for somebody, and maybe we'll give them the right idea of what they could actually purchase. So let's get almost right into it on our wish list. And we're going to start off with Logar. You're going to share your wish list first.
Oh, my wish list. I'm trying to remember what was first on my wish list. Was that Screams Amongst the Stars? Was that the first one I had put?
Screams Amongst the Stars.
Oh, yeah. So I picked up Diego Noguera has these out. I picked actually one of our patron subscribers. I want to thank you very much. Picked up Screams Amongst the Stars, and then there was another one that came out, which is the one that I actually got, and I'm trying to remember the name of it now. But there's a couple that he recently released, and you can find them on Exalted Funeral. They're rules light science fiction and cyberpunk games. They look pretty compatible. Now, Light got Screams Amongst the Stars. I got to look at it, and Light's my co-host on Wobblies and Wizards, if you're not familiar with the podcast. I got to look at it, and I saw that thing like, oh, I really want this. It looks really cool. It's neat. kind of space horror style of thing, rules light game. I'm a fan of the stuff Diogo has been putting out. He puts out some solid stuff.
Yeah, he just put out, I think Primal was also another one that he put out recently, and he's doing amazing work. He's out of Brazil, and but he is like prolific. Like, I mean, that guy can like crank out like amazing games, and he does the artwork as well. So like he's like Luca Reyes as far as he's like the triple threat. He can combine the writing and the art and the game mechanics. Like, it's all pretty fluid for him. So I know me and him have talked about it. He's probably going to come on the show in the near future, so I look forward to learning more about him.
Yeah, and I've got the Primal and I've got the Cyberpunk one. I feel horrible. I can't remember the name of the Cyberpunk one that came out around the same time, but that Screams Amongst the Stars. And there's a zombie one as well. That's probably going to be next on the list there to pick up his.
So that was number 3, Screams Amongst the Stars, and number 2 is.
Oh, that Forbidden Lands Book of Beasts. Oh, I cannot lie. I ran Forbidden Lands a while back. I love the system. I love the books. The box set is beautiful. If you don't have that Forbidden Lands box, get it. There's a reason Free League's been so successful, because they're getting to be one of the biggest game companies out there, but they put out a nice product. And Forbidden Lands is one of, I'm not going to say it's not OSR in the sense that it is compatible with BX or AD&D, but it is hex crawl heavy, point crawl heavy. It does some really unique stuff with its Year Zero engine, which is a D6 based system. And I'm becoming a bigger and bigger fan of D6 based systems, especially that Year Zero engine is one of my favorite ones out there. Very flexible. It's really easy to run, and then you can make it really complex if you want to. It's just that basic mechanic works. And they had the, player's handbook and game master's guide in the box set. It's been out for a while, but there hasn't been like a bestiary. Well, they started it last year or so. And right now, that's one of the things I'm most excited and looking forward to getting and putting on my shelf. The player's handbook and the game master's guide have this sort of they don't have like colorful printing. They're almost like leather. They look like leather bound. I think it might be faux leather. One is green and one is what color is the other one? I think one's green, one's red.
With the maroon, with
and
the
I
gold,
think, and I think that the Book of Beast itself, finally, when we get that, it's going to be like a greenish color, or a greenish or a bluish color, I think.
Yeah.
So kind of in line with those two main books. And I'm really looking forward to it. I enjoyed running it. I'm definitely going to run it again in the future. It might have to get boosted up to high priority when the Book of Beasts does come in. I'm going to be looking at that like, yes! Well, so I'm excited.
I've got the box set myself, and I just love the feel of it. It's got like that, even though, like you said, it's not OSR, it's got an OSR feel to it. And even the paper texture, it really reminds me of those like early days of role-playing games, but like such high quality in the illustrations. And once again, like you said, Free League is just like, they're on a roll. I tweeted out like a couple of weeks ago after they did the announcement for what did they just license, Walking Dead?
Yes.
And I was like, boy, like they are like licensing so much and producing so much. Like, if anybody can knock Wizards of the Coast out of its market share place, it's going to be Free League, just because they are doing a lot.
Well, I'm gonna put this out there, and I'm not gonna do that. Never mind. They do great stuff. I just heard Conan lost. They're losing the licensing.
Yeah, Medifia. Yeah,
I wouldn't complain if like Free League picked it up, or even like Troll Lord would be the ideal people to do the Conan role playing game with the Siege engine. But like Free League's best stuff, in my opinion, isn't even the stuff they've licensed, because they've licensed the big names like Alien. What was the Cyberpunk, Blade Runner, and like Coriolis and Forbidden Lands are wonderful games. I know a lot of the attention started up around the other one. What was it? It was Tales from the Loop was the one that I really first noticed them from. I had to look on my shelf there, but Mutant Year Zero as well is a solid post-apocalyptic game, kind of a revival of the old Mutant game, and that's kind of where their system came from. And I love the system. It's great. It's elegant.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And to be honest with you, I generally hate licensed games
Hmm.
personally because I feel kind of too constrained by that world. But like you said, they've got so much other solid games that like they don't even need to do the licensing. But if that gets their name out there more and their brand out there more, more power to them. But generally speaking, I don't buy licensed games. But I've got the Tales from the Loop and Forbidden Lands and
Yeah.
a few other games. So like for sure, I think
Oh,
they're
they're
on a
good.
roll.
They're good.
Okay, what's that was number 2, and finally for your wish list, number 1.
Oh, GURPS for you. If you can look back there, I have a bunch of somewhere on those shelves. I got a lot of old GURPS books. They're pretty old though. I haven't picked up that 4th edition stuff, and it's been out for a while. And I haven't ran GURPS since the 90s, and even then, I haven't ran like a long-lived campaign. But I have this dream campaign I've been working on in the evenings and stuff. I would love to get the new GURPS books. So if anybody at Steve Jackson Games out there hears me, you want to send them to me, I wouldn't complain.
So I think that's a direct call out to Phil Reed, who has been a guest both on yours and my shows. That hey, I think Logar
Yeah,
could use some
the
GURPS 4E.
well, and I'm gonna put this out there. I'm not familiar with the 4th edition books, but I am very familiar with the earlier editions, like 3rd edition, especially. 3rd edition was long lived. There's like 3rd edition and 3rd edition revived. I don't know what time year 3rd came out, but may have been the late 80s. I want to say that GURPS dropped in 86 or something like that originally, but I might be off there. So GURPS, the system itself, excuse me there. The system itself is pretty simple. You've got your stats, like a 12 is doing really good, 10's about average. And you're going to roll 3d6 under that stat and you succeed. That's it. It's not a
Yeah.
complicated system. I know it has a tendency to be called crunchy, but there's a GURPS Lite out there. You can pick them up. You can get the PDF for free online. And it's a lot. It's, I think when you dive into a big GURPS book, like the basic characters or the basic campaigns book, there's a lot of stuff in there, but a lot of it's very modular. And a lot of these books are made to be generic. So a lot of the stats they give will be given in like actual measurements as opposed to like a game mechanic measurement. And like 80 to 90% of most GURPS books you could easily use with any game you're running to begin with. And they're great reads. They have some wonderful stuff in some of those books. Great settings and great stuff for crafting, like GURPS religion for coming up with different ideas for religions, GURPS space for making your planets and everything else. There's a lot there. I think GURPS is one of the most solid, coolest role-playing games in RPG history. It's definitely in the top 10 list of historic RPGs, if not higher. And
Yeah.
I'd like to get the 4th edition, but I just don't have it yet. And it's been out a while.
And you actually had Steve on your show, same with me, and
I was excited.
he doesn't like to talk about GURPS for whatever reason. I just think
Yeah.
I think it's kind of old for him. He's probably talked about it so much, but like you said, it's a classic system, especially the world books. Like it's so many
Yeah.
world books that people have, their setting books that people have like always got expertise information on. So tons
And
out there.
let me put this out there because I don't know if I even just recap. Some people, if you're not familiar, I'm assuming most listeners, if you're listening to a role playing game podcast and videos and stuff, you're probably familiar with GURPS. But I'm running into a lot of people who are new to the space. So if you're newer to the space, you're not familiar with GURPS. It is generic, universal role playing system. The whole idea was that you could play anything with this system. And all the little source books are just kind of like the different genres and different places you can take it for the most part. So it's supposed to be able to play anything with this one system is the idea behind it.
And we had a comment come in talking about the Free League needs to support their original games more. Lots of IP milking going on. So we kind of touched on
Yeah, I want some Forbidden Lands and Coriolis stuff. This Coriolis has a new one coming out for the campaign path I'm excited about. But yeah. I'm interested in Coriolis and Forbidden Land stuff primarily from Free League.
Yeah, but like solid company doing great work. They really cleaned up at the Annies last year, like a lot of their stuff. So, so recapping, we got Screams Among Us by Diego Noguera, Forbidden Lands by Free League, and GURPS 4E. Okay, we are going to move on to my wish list. So the criteria was like, these are things that I would just love to kind of have, and they've probably been, some of them have been out for a while, but just never gotten a hold of them.
Yeah.
The first one is Torque by Will Jobst.
So I'm not familiar with Torque. Could you enlighten me? This is the I think I know. This is like a
this is just kind of like, I guess, a rally game, like a punk Mad Max kind of feel to it.
Okay.
But the manual, it's like a car manual, you know, the kind you get in the glove compartment. It's got that the texture of the book and the style of it.
That's cool.
So I really liked it, and I saw this at Gen Con, and so you can see some of the design of it. And I'm like a real nerd for graphic design, so when I see like a design that I like, I just think it's like so cool.
Yeah, that is nice.
And so anyways, it just kind of screamed out to me, and I was gonna get it, and it was at the Indie Game Revolution table, and I was gonna get it, and I just, for whatever reason, I just never did, and I kind of regretted that. So that's now on my wish list of, I wish I would have picked it up, and I still might. So that's on my wish list. Number 2 is Mouse Ritter, and once again, this is one of those things that I saw it on Kickstarter, and I was like, I should really back this. I've got, oh, what do you have there?
Ooh. It's nice. It is. I haven't had a chance to run it yet.
But you know, it takes after Into the Odd, and it's what's the saying? Whiskers and swords and whiskers.
Swords and whiskers, I believe.
Yeah.
You think that's correct?
And
yeah, sword and whiskers role playing.
So it's just got like a really nice feel. I know you can go download the PDF of it for free, and anybody can play it. But they did this Kickstarter last year, and the people are just getting them in their mail now. And I just went, and you got yours, and I love the little peek hole into the world. And I was trying to inquire, and maybe somebody watching might know. I thought there was one where there's like the same concept with a wallpaper, where the mouse was behind a little hole in the wallpaper, like the mouse hole, like, you know, Tom and Jerry kind of mouse hole. But I haven't seen a picture of it, but I thought there was. But anyways, I wish I would have backed it. So I might have to figure that out up in the new year.
Yeah, I actually backed it digitally only at first, and I wanted to back it for the physical. I just didn't have the money at the time, and when I got the files in digitally, I was impressed. So when it finally hit Exalted, I actually had the money at the time. I said, well, I definitely have to order that. And I grabbed it. And I first ordered the other box, the Estate, which is like the Adventures, and thinking that was the full box, and it wasn't. I went back and had to. So if you want Mouse Ritter, watch out. There's the Estate box, and there's the Mouse Ritter full game box. And I think you can buy the book on itself, but the best part is the rules, I think, are out there in PDF for free.
Yeah. And so Isaac Williams is the author of that, doing an incredible job. And I would like to get Isaac on the show in the near future, just talk about his design history. And finally, my wish list number 1, HP Lovecraft Society, the prop set. And once again, I saw this at Gen Con. I had a brief interview with the 2 gentlemen that were responsible for the design of it. And I've rarely played Call of Cthulhu, but what I really love is the in-game props that, like, you give a player something and like they tangibly can look at it and they can play with it and get ideas from it. It creates that immersion that I really love. And you can see like how many items they got. And when I talked to them, they said like some of them were like kind of hand ripped notes, and they worked in the Hollywood prop set area. So they basically created all these props with their knowledge of making Hollywood props and put it all in a box. And so it's just like a treasure trove of like little things to just hand to your players to get ideas for hooks and games.
They've got a good history of cool props from Call of Cthulhu. I've definitely played some Call of Cthulhu in my day, maybe not as much as other games, but over the years I'll play it here and there. I know for a minute there, they had one box set that came with a teacup or a tea set. Did you see that one?
I didn't know.
They had a box set that came with, you can have tea with it. It came with little teacups and I guess like a teapot and everything.
And I'm kind of bad because like a weird thing about me is I've never been a fan of Cthulhu. I like horror, and I like that kind of like, you know, crazy, weird conspiracy stuff. But anyways, I've just never the Cthulhu and going crazy things is never. I like real kind of horror type of thing. But they also gave me this little USB stick.
Oh, that's cool. Is
with
that's from
files on it.
Chaosium or
That was from the H.P. Lovecraft Society. So
the H.P. Lovecraft Society.
yeah, so they gave me that as part of meeting them. So that was pretty cool. And we're going to take a brief break from our wish list, and now we are going to transition to. And just a reminder, if people are watching, feel free to donate through stickers for good cause. As we talked about, the Doctors Without Borders and the School of Chiapas, that we're raising hopefully some funds for today. But now we're going to go into our favorite movie, Christmas movie, whatever you want to call it.
My holiday movies.
Holiday movie.
What's my favorite holiday movie?
So
look, Gary, when you asked me if I had a favorite holiday movie, I was like, no, I don't like Christmas music or Christmas movies. I thought about it for a minute. There are a couple I do like. The first three that came to mind were Batman Returns, Shazam, and Spider-Man No Way Home. I went with Shazam. And the reason I chose Shazam is it's kind of connected to the fact that I don't like the Christmas movies as much, but I like Christmas movies if people around me like them. Just like music or anything else. I have kids and family that get into things and like things, and I enjoy them with them. And I'm determined, like, okay, I like this. This may not be Dad's thing, but I'm determined to enjoy it with them. And my son's not really into superhero movies like Dad is. I love comic books growing up. But my son really liked Shazam and really thinks Shazam is cool. I got some Shazam comics on his own and everything else, and some Captain Marvel, Shazam. We all know the whole history of Captain Marvel and Shazam, I'm assuming. Yeah. If not, there was multiple Captain Marvels. One of them used the power word Shazam, who was a little boy, Billy Batson, who became a big man. And I was thrilled watching the movie just as a fan of those old comics, because I love those old Captain Marvel, Shazam comics and the Justice Society growing up. And at the end, you got to see Mary Marvel pop up and the whole Shazam Captain Marvel family. I was super thrilled seeing that. I was like a little kid again. And there was my son over there who was really connecting with this Billy Batson, who's kind of his age, and thinking it's cool and getting into it and saying, this is my favorite hero now. I'm like, oh, cool. So that's my favorite holiday.
Did you watch the old 80s
version? Old serial? The 80s one?
Yeah.
I remember this. I've seen the 80s one. It's been a while. Wasn't that 70s, not 80s?
Oh, it could have been, yeah. Like
I think it might have been the 70s. I think it was like mid-late 70s. And then there was the original black and white serials as well. I'll be honest, I haven't seen a lot of those in years. I used to watch all that old stuff growing up, but probably watch the serial more because I used to have the serials on VHS, the old Batman serials and the other black and white serials that came out from that era.
Oh, I used to love those, the old Batman, the Batusi.
Those are great. So yeah, that's my favorite Christmas movie. I get to watch it with my son, my daughter. And the other thing I want to add to that is my daughter really likes it too. So it's one of the few movies I get to watch and enjoy with my kids and get into. It's a Christmas movie that I also like.
Cool. And mine is probably like a lot of other people's favorite holiday movie is Die Hard. And what's the saying? Like, there's people that don't think Die Hard's a holiday movie, and then there's those people that are wrong. or something like that. You get the idea.
I'm dying here.
But anyways,
I don't think I've seen Die Hard in 30 years.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. I remember watching it. I've seen some of the sequels when they came out, but I don't think I've actually watched Die Hard in 30 years.
Well,
it's got to be at least since the 90s.
Best holiday movie ever. We watch it annually. It's like Elf and Die Hard. And I guess we'll watch It's a Wonderful Life too, if you want that sentimental stuff.
That's my father. That was one of my father's favorites. Was It's a Wonderful Life, and then the George C. Scott Christmas Carol. He had to watch those every year, so we watched them all the time, and I'm very familiar with those growing up.
And you know, another one that's almost like a reverse It's a Wonderful Life is The Family Man with Nicolas Cage, and I love Nicolas Cage because he does some like he's not afraid to like just do whatever he wants to do for a movie, and maybe he needs the money. I'm not too sure. But there's one called The Family Man, and it's almost like a reverse It's a Wonderful Life, where he starts with nothing and then he gets the family, but then it gets taken away. Whereas It's a Wonderful Life, it gets taken away, but then he gets it back at the end. So anyways, I always thought
I don't think I've seen that one.
Nick Cage is like, awesome actor. Mandy. Everybody should go watch Mandy.
What was the recent one I did watch? Was The Unbearable Burden of Massive Talent or something like that? Was that what it was called? Are you familiar with this?
No, I don't think so.
Oh yeah, it's an interesting movie.
Well, Mandy. If you watch Mandy, it's like disturbing. That's the one. It's like the motorcycle gang that sets up shot. There's a motorcycle cult that lives nearby them, and they end up killing his wife. And no spoilers there, but he gets his revenge. Let's just say that.
I keep on hearing about that one. I was gonna watch it. It was on some kind of streaming recently. I never got a chance to watch. I can't remember what it was. So yeah, I need to check it out because everybody keeps on telling me to watch Mandy. I'm not the best with movies.
Okay, we are going to move into the big part of our show, which is the best of 2022 in games.
We should do a drum roll.
First up for Logar is number 3,
Dungeon.
Now, is it Dungeon or DNGN?
I'm just calling it Dungeon. DNGN. I've been calling it Dungeon. I am enamored with this zine. It is my favorite. I do a zine every Thursday. We try to look at a different zine on the podcast. So I'm reading like a zine a week. And I just think this is beautiful and a work of art. It's got this really great, like they lean into the Vasily Singing Flame, I believe it is the one who put this out. And I need to try to get him back onto the show. We spoke to him, I think, was it the crowdfunding for this or something else? I can't remember what it was. But so this is for Old School Essentials, but really, I actually just used it for my Castles and Crusades game we run on Saturdays. And I just can't tell you how much I love it. It's very in line with a lot of the Old School Essentials stuff, and it's easy to run, bullet point laid out, and it works well for running a quick adventure. It's like, oh no, I need a dungeon, I need an adventure. You can grab it. There's different levels to the dungeon. I think the idea is that he's trying to make a multiple issues, so expanding on this, kind of making a zine of mega dungeons. Some of the art in here, the isometric maps at the back are beautiful. There's some great art, and the printing complements the art in amazing ways. And the art's kind of all isolated to the back, almost as like player handout. So when you reach a place, you can just open it up and show it to the players instead of having to like show them the information involved in it. And it like I said, this is one part dungeon adventure module, one part just work of art. It's a masterpiece. I love it. It's beautiful.
And I have my own copy as well. It's quite beautiful, and you can see with the red and the blue, it's like 2 spot colors throughout the whole thing. So it's not like a 4-color print. It's just the 2 spot colors, that kind of orangey red, as well as like just the blue ink, and it just works so well together. It's just got the nice vibe that we love in a OSR type of game.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous. It is gorgeous. What do we have next?
We had
ahead of it.
We had a comment about from Paul, the director of Mandy is a huge Hellraiser fan. Makes a lot of sense considering the design of that biker gang.
I was really into those Hellraiser movies when I was younger. Clive Barker. Well, unlike you, I was a Lovecraft fan in high school. I read a lot of Lovecraft, and I was a Clive Barker fan as well. And there are some horror movies I wasn't as into as others, especially modern ones. I was into really old horror, especially Hammer horror. But I really got into some Clive Barker stuff. And those Hellraiser movies, the first 2 were some of my favorites. And I honestly liked most of them throughout, even the not as great ones. I kind of like.
Okay, what is up next? Now we have number 3, Dungeon or DNGN, and maybe we'll get a correction on that.
So is this cheating? This is of these. So Dungeon, I got to run only one of those dungeons so far in game. Hyperborea, I am Logar the Barbarian. I've got Hyperborea, all 3 editions in my collection at this point. We've been playing a Hyperborea campaign for 3 years now. The name Logar the Barbarian is my Astonishing Swordsman and Sorcerers of Hyperborea character. That's where I got it from. We started playing. I was reading a lot of Howard at the time. I said, I want to be Conan. So I kind of cheated and went to the 3rd edition to deliver it, but this is beautiful. Let me tell you something. I'll tell you why this is beautiful and amazing. Number one, I'm a big fan of print books. I love them, and they are printed, and the art and everything's just magnificent. I think Diogo might have some art in here as well, too.
Yeah.
But I get into a lot of these zines and these rules light games. This is not really that. I've been gaming a long time. This is the foundation of the game is AD&D. It's the Osric. If you're familiar with Osric, like the retro clone of AD&D. It is the descending armor class. It is the basic rules of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons it's presented without elves and dwarves, which are kind of some of my least favorite elements of the game. I'm gonna be honest. Never huge. I'm not as into Tolkien as I am into like Howard. Yeah. And it presents it it's got a bunch of great classes. Gonna be crunchier than your knave or your cairn or a lot of the rules light stuff going on. It's not a problem really. It runs great. It is Jeffrey Talanian has done this book because I think it's primarily his work in here, and he has knocked it out of the park. It is a masterpiece. Just reading through the Gazetteer, like the world information, the bestiary, everything is meticulously done. Again, like DNGN or Dungeon, if you're a game geek like me who's been reading through these big crunchy tomes for years, this is kind of a masterpiece as well. I'm really impressed with the Hyperborea 3rd edition books.
And what's the difference between the 3rd edition and the 2nd edition? Because I think I told you, like, I really love the covers of the 2nd edition. And when I saw the 3rd edition covers, and I was like, I don't like them as much. But in looking at it again, they actually are pretty good.
Well, there's a few differences. First difference is the 3rd edition is great. Beautiful book. They've got a player's handbook. There's like a paper one you can pick up, which is just the first couple chapters in it. Let me go through the history of this in the printings. Shoot, I should have brought the boxes in the book. So if you look, they're back there on the shelf. The 1st edition was a box. It was spiral bound. There's 2 books. And each book has other books in it. I can't remember the title. Like one's characters, and maybe one section's combat, and then one section's whatnot. Now, those are in spiral bound, kind of cheaper printing, black and white. 2nd edition got like the big deluxe type of binding, the Smithsonian binding, and the nice printing and all that. The box is really nice. It's beautiful for what he's working with there. The 2nd edition is also all those books from the first one and some more printed as one book. So it's a honking huge book. So number one big difference with 3rd edition and 2nd edition is you have 2 books as opposed to 1. And it's kind of nice. I like big books. I cannot lie. I also like having the 2. And the other difference, the biggest difference, is there are a few more classes. Each edition seems to add a couple more classes. I've heard that there were some other slight tweaks and alterations, but it's essentially still completely compatible all the way through. It's 1st edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, or Osric, but without the elves and dwarves and goblins and the Tolkien stuff. No orcs. But it's totally compatible with tons of stuff you probably have. If you've been playing a while, you got your old AD&D modules, your BX modules, 1st edition, 2nd edition, any of that swords and wizardry, retro clone Osric. There's a ton of material out there that's totally 100% compatible with Hyperborea. Great game. We just hit 3 years on our campaign. Light's the dungeon master there, or the game master, or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, our group's a fan, and we're gonna keep on playing, hopefully for at least 3 more years or more.
And I love the vibe of it. Like, I mean, the logo and like the artwork and stuff like that. And it's very similar to, I would say, like, it's similar but not the same as DCC. It's kind of got that like just fun kind of campiness that you can bring to the table.
DCC definitely gets really, because we play a lot of DC. We played quite a bit of DCC in the last couple of years as well. DCC gets a little more bonkers and a little more unique with its system. There's a lot more random tables with magic and choices of error. Hyperborea is I like to play AD&D from back in the day. It presents it in a really good way. It is the original game in many ways with its own flair. And that flair is that swords and sorcery old style. It's got the weird stuff in it. Like you see the front, they're kind of like a spaceship burnout there, and it's mostly barbarians and sorcerers and stuff. The classes don't get too out there. Just like, you have different types of magic users. Like you want to be a chiromancer or a pyromancer. You want to do ice spells or fire spells, or a necromancer. It's a good game.
Cool. Okay, we're going to move on to, so that was your second pick, and now the finale of what is your first. And actually, before we do that, did you have an honorable mention?
I do have an honorable mention. I definitely have an honorable mention. I'm going to pull it out now. One of the nicest books that I backed and got this year is not even a game on its own, but a supplement. And and I only brought the book over. It came with a pack of stuff that was gorgeous. Anna Urbanic did the Herbalist's Primer. And I cannot tell you, again, I'm that one who likes books as the physical medium, as an art form, essentially. This is gorgeous. And it's good. It gives you all kinds of information on different plants and herbs and stuff like this. I like herbs. And, so it's got like medicinal purposes, magic purposes, just tons of stuff to use. It is a gorgeous book. I can't suggest it enough. I think you can get it on Exalted Funeral. Pick it up. She did a wonderful job.
Can you flip through it just a bit, just to show people? Let me spotlight you. Well, I don't know if I can figure out this spotlighting.
Oh, there we go. Go. I can see myself a little bit better. She did, from what I understand, the art is hers, the writing's hers. She has just outdone herself. I know that the layout's wonderful. She's a layout artist. She's done a lot of layout for some really cool books. I can't name anything specific. I think some of the stuff for Necrotic Gnome as well. And this is kind of her baby. It is beautiful. And it gives you little comparisons, like people up to the trees and whatnot. So yeah, I really appreciate it. It's a good read, and it gives you some ideas for things to use in game. And by the way, I forgot I brought this over. We were talking earlier about the other Cyberpunk game from Diogo is the running out of time.
We've got a comment. I think that the fungi of the Far Realms are the best Rex for non-system heavy books.
I don't think I've picked that up yet. I've seen that. It's what that was. That Messalonian Arts, is that what they're called? Is that the one I'm thinking of that was put out by them?
Yeah, it could be. It sounds very familiar, but I like a Troika, Troika book, perhaps.
I think that was them, unless I'm confusing it with a different one. There's another one that was more zine-like, but there was one that I was thinking of that was the fungi of the Far Realms. That was the one from Messalonian Arts. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I have not snagged it yet. Okay, yeah. That's what I thought. I have not picked it up yet, and mostly because I don't have enough money to buy all the books that I want.
So this is a message to Danielle Sell from Meltonia. We need these books.
And then what were we at? Oh,
okay. So back to the final number one of 2022 for Logar is.
Okay, this next one is. I'm pretty sure it came out in 2022, but I'm not 100% certain. I'm pretty sure it was, but I got it in 2022. Now I played 3 years of Hyperborea, so I know that well. I've ran an adventure of dungeon. This one I've only played in and one adventure so far, and that was for our Halloween group. I like it. Liminal horror, and it is. Let me tell you why I like it and what I hope for it. I think that this has potential to be much more than it currently is. It's rules light horror. It does unique things. When it comes to like the Cthulhu, the old Call of Cthulhu stuff did like insanity and stuff like that, and some of that's kind of perhaps questionable in this day and age. We know better. We know better. It's okay to know better and say, hey, maybe we did stuff clumsy in the past and we should rethink it. And liminal horror kind of does that and leans into like giving good flavor with it. I appreciate the liminal horror. I think there's a lot of potential for it. And there's quite a few. I've got quite a few different supplements already for it. People are putting out. I think that what this game has in store for the future with community support could be even almost as big as something like Mothership, perhaps. I don't know, but it's neat, and it's based on Cairn. If you're familiar with Cairn, that was Yohai's rules light game. So it takes a lot from there. Very rules light, easy. It seems easy. I didn't run it. I only played it, but it was easy to pick up on, easy to play. It seemed to be easy to pick up on to run. And yeah, I suggest it. And I think there's a great future for liminal horror. Maybe even more editions or box sets or something might come out or larger, but I don't know what they got planned, but I think that there should be more for this in the future. And there's definitely some cool stuff coming out from the community.
Yeah, there seems to be like a really strong community around it, and a lot of adventures, and probably like I've mentioned before, like with like Mothership, it's the community that's that makes the game. So I can see a lot of opportunity for those people, and because it's got the SRD and it's like open gaming license, so to speak, that you can just hack it as you need to. So it's Creative Commons.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think there's a great future for it. I'm hopeful to see more in the next year from folks. And I know, my number one.
Okay, cool. So that's a good list of games. We are going to now get into my best of 2022. And before I get into my top three, much like you, I've got two honorable mentions that I'm sneaking in. The first one, as we just talked about, is Mothership. Now, this is one of those things that, like,
I don't have it yet. Well, I got the 0E, but the box hasn't come in yet. I need it.
I need it too. I backed it on Kickstarter. I'm waiting. I've got the PDFs that have been. I think they just like a few days ago they released the PDFs for the upcoming box set, and I've seen prototypes of the box set, so I'm anxiously awaiting that. And it's one of those things that, and I'll probably catch hell for this, but like the system's okay to me. Like it works, it's okay. But the really part of it is like kind of the vibe and the setting that Mothership puts out, and the community that's been built around it. And some of the adventures are just like astounding, and the creativity that's coming within the adventures is really what to me makes this product good, and the community it's built around it.
I'll say I've ran Mothership a few times. Have you ran it or played it yet? I think that the system itself, I like the system. I felt that some of the combat stuff was a little clunky for me when I ran it, and I know that's been updated. So the original zine that came out, if you don't know, I'm assuming a lot of people in the community know, is considered a 0 edition, and the box that's coming out is considered first edition. And I know that that's one of the things that's changed. I know there's a documents out there telling what it is, but I haven't really looked through and read and figured out what changed about the combat, but I'm excited about that because I think with that changes, I think it's going to be a system I really, really like because I already like it a lot. It's one of the best things about Mothership I have to put out there is character creation is like, it's like pretty much on the character sheet, super easy.
Yeah.
You're running a one shot, you hand people character sheets. So simple to get a character done and move on.
I think that's one of their selling features is the flow chart for the game that you can like just like automatically sit that in front of somebody and they can like figure it out.
Oh, so hi. New Warden's Guide or whatnot just dropped. Looks very impressive. Yeah, I download the PDF, but I have a hard time reading PDFs. I'm probably not going to get a chance to actually read the PDF or read the Warden's Guide until I have it physically in my hand and I sit down on my couch one night to read it, to be totally honest. If I'm at a computer, I'm usually editing something or fixing something.
Well, I prefer print too, but I've gotten like if I actually bought everything that, like physically that I wanted, like I would run out of space, so I have to resort to PDFs.
Oh, I got a nice. It's actually in the garage. I've got this massive zine display thing from the military now, apparently from a friend. So I'm gonna have plenty of zine space here. I just have to figure the wall to put it on. I think it's going to go probably up against here where you can't see.
and you know, the other thing that I like about Mothership is because of its roots and how it started and the community it's built up. For me, it shows what an indie game company can do, which I really appreciate, because I mean, that's where like my love and passion sits, is kind of like weird indie game scenes.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just one of those things that it shows what can be done. And as I saw their Kickstarter click over like $1 million last year, I was like, well, good for them. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Hai says I can't really absorb something unless it's printed, but after the fact, digital is fine. I have a really difficult time reading digital. I do have some, like I was diagnosed with Tourette syndrome and ADHD as a kid. I have to be reading on a physical book. The digital medium is really hard for me.
Okay, and my second honorable mention, and I reviewed this as part of my Halloween campaign, is Nightcrawlers. There is just something about this game. It's based upon the Black Hack game, and I've got my copy here. And when I flipped through it, it just made me feel like I was in 1980s again. Just the style of it and just the layout of it and everything like that. I thought it was a charming little game, and I really thought I would love for more people to pick it up and more people to play it, because I think it's just like a fun independent project. And if you can support like an indie game designer, like you really should. And this is like a really good product to do that with. And it's where you're like vampires, werewolves, teenage werewolves, like in this kind of city, and you're punks. It's just kind of a fun game.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I haven't picked it up yet. I don't got a copy of it. I need one. I don't know what I'm making my next zine purchase, but I may have to try to put that on the list here.
Okay, so now we are going to get into the best of, or at least my top 3 after the honorable mentions.
You get a drum roll?
Number 3, The Bureau, which is Liminal Horrors. I think the premier adventure setting for it so far, and I'm sure there's lots more coming. And so it's like a government agency. You go inside of it, and it's like corrupt, and like there's mysteries, and there's like all sorts of things going on. And one of the things that I really appreciate about it is just the overall aesthetic. And as you probably have guessed by a lot of what I really like, and probably maybe even I lean too heavily into it, is that aesthetic. I just love the feel of it, where you're seeing redacted content, and it's just fun.
Yeah, we got a chance to talk to Josh Demansky and Goblin Archives, who did this on the podcast. In fact, my copy came from Goblin Archives, and I did a zine review on it. It is a good book. It is a good zine. And I have ideas for running it. If I can ever sit down and do a full, if I was going to be like, hey, Logar, are you going to do a liminal horror campaign? I got my plan for a liminal horror campaign, and it is running the Bureau with my take. I might go a little Stranger Things with it, because it is just one location where stuff is happening, and kind of like it's a dungeon crawl through a massive government facility. I love it. It's great, and it's done well.
Yeah, totally done well, and it just has that kind of just right feel to it. And I think as liminal horror picks up steam, you're going to see more cool products like this coming along. So now for me, it was the number 3. Number 2, Hell Knight. And we already talked a little bit about it before with the Mandy reference of that movie with Nicolas Cage. And Gabriel Quiroga did Hell Knight I know it's had some production delays, but I've backed it on Kickstarter. I've had him as a guest on the show. Just like super cool layout, super cool. Once again, has that kind of vibe that I like. Every page is different. Like that's one of the things I always look for in a game is as much as I like clear information being presented to me, I probably prefer when the information is kind of couched in cool graphic design.
And he's got a really cool soundtrack that they put out for it too, that we got to sample on the podcast. We got a little preview of the music there. I know that, and there, like you said, there was some kind of issue at the printer at some point in time. Like one of the printers, like
I think a lot of creators ran into that for them. Their Kickstarters is like the cost went up, paper supplies were down. All sorts of headaches. So I know, I was just chatting with Gabrielle the other day, and I know things are kind of finally lining up. And as part of the Kickstarter, I also ordered Warpland, which was like an add-on, which is another cool OSR style game that he's created. And I've got a couple of Neuro City, which is also another game he created. And I know he's working on a second edition of that right now.
And he is quite the cook and foodie. Let me tell you, I'm very impressed with that. I appreciate him. He's a good feller.
And then finally, number one for my pick for best of 2022 is Death in Space.
I don't have it yet. I need it. That was one of the ones that needed to put on my want list.
You can see the hologram on it. And I know, so a little bit of history to it is like I saw this and I went, oh, that looks pretty cool. And I went to Gen Con, and I think Carl, one of the authors of the game, he was at the Free League booth because he's from the Stockholm cartel, and he was at the Free League booth. And I said, hey, I'd love to maybe do like an on the spot interview with you. And Gen Con got crazy, so we never reconnected. But I said to him right off the bat, oh, like it's pretty cool. Like, I wonder how it's going to compete with the Mothership. And he kind of gave me a look as far as like, well, it's not like Mothership. And I didn't really know. And I went to buy a book, but they're already sold out. Like day one, they were sold out of this. And it's just like a really cool, if you haven't seen inside of it, I mean, I don't know how much it costs for all this black ink.
Yeah, it looks nice. And again, this is a Free League product. They have put out, that's Free League, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have some of the best. They have some wonderful art and design stuff going on there. They're doing some nice stuff.
Super cool design. And when I went, okay, I was waiting for my local game store to bring it in, the Sentry box, and they finally did. And so I bought it. And so I scratched a list. It almost ended up on my wish list, but I bought it. And just looking through it, it's just like a really fun, unique setting. And it's like more sci-fi than it is like sci-fi horror, but there's definitely horror elements. And so for me, just between the graphic design, the vibe that it's giving off, and the system, I really like it. So for me, this gets my best of 2022. And with that said, everybody's got their different what they like. And styles, and I tend to like a little bit more graphic design than just straight text.
Yeah.
So we haven't had any donations, unfortunately, but you know what?
Here, let me put this out there. Let me put, if you're listening, and you go to the Schools for Chiapas website, because like, they do have, like, as a part of support, you can purchase stuff. There's a store, the Solidarity Store, it's called. You can get like I said, little artisanal things, from dolls to food and clothes. They have corn and coffee. If you want to grow some corn, they have they have a whole like seed thing that they're doing to like preserve seed. A lot of indigenous women as farmers raising crops and stuff like that. You can get seeds, you can get corn, you can get coffee. I know a lot of people drink coffee. I know some folks around here that pull together and will buy a bunch of coffee from the Schools from Chiapas, and it's all being made and produced down there, like non-GMO and stuff like that. So go there, and You can get a nice, they got different shirts to the one I got, and they got different hats and all kinds of things. So you can go there and purchase something that will help the community as well. So sorry for hijacking there.
No, that's good. And same with Doctors Without Borders. Links are in the description. And you know what? Let's just donate the full $100 to them, $50 each. We're gonna try to improve the world as best we can. And so, if you have the ability to, please go directly to their websites in the descriptions and donate and make the world a better place, especially at the holiday season when it's a tough time for a lot of people. And I know there's not a lot of money going all around right now. There's inflation and stuff like that. So, do what you can. So as we're wrapping up, Logar, what is next for you?
Oh no. What is next? Go to our patreon.com/Wobblies and Wizards and you can hear what's next. So I'm not trying to make any like big put things out there. That we've been working on, me and a group of folks have been kind of working on our own little game that we've thrown some of the notes out there to patrons and stuff like that. We've made some leaps and bounds here lately. Constantly we are, but we keep on going back to the drawing board, back and forth. It's not one of these things where we're going to just crank it out overnight and it's going to be there. Before I do any kind of official release, we're going to at least hopefully have a little bit more worked out and play tested and hammered out. And it's not just me making it. There's 4 of us working on it. So it's neat. It's different. We're going to keep on trying to put out a daily podcast. I got plenty of folks we're talking to. We're going to talk to Levi Combs, I think is coming up really soon here. And, you know what? I had this wonderful discussion with this game creator who's doing stuff in the realm of suicide prevention. And they've got a whole thing coming up here. Is it January or February? I don't know, but that should be out. The episode you should be listening to here soon. It's a really good one, really interesting. As soon as I can get everything edited and uploaded, it'll be there. Like I said, daily podcast. We'll keep on pushing through, talking to independent creators, talk to a lot of people from Itch and stuff like that, and people who are putting out their own stuff. So if you're interested in independent games, different games, and we do a lot of old school games because we play a lot of old school games. Like I said, Hyperborea is kind of our main 3-year campaign right now. So we talk about the old school stuff and new stuff.
Cool. And you can see we got our first donation, Cameron Ferment. So
yeah,
thank
excellent.
you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, very much appreciated. So thank you for that. And I guess for me, well, do you have other stuff going on? I don't want to jump.
Oh no, I was just saying what's going on. What's going on over with Daiku?
So last year we did a 2021 year in review with Shannon Appelkline, who is the author of Designers and Dragons, and he's got 4 books so far from the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and the noughts. And he is going to be on our show again, and basically we're going to talk about everything that happened this last year and all the controversies. And Paul donated.
Oh, thank you. It's happening.
Yeah. So thank you, Paul. Thanks for the listen and reviews. There's a large indie market. It helps to have an idea of what to keep an eye on. Keep up the designer interview. So thank you very much, Paul. Very much appreciated. And it's all for a good cause. So very cool. But Shannon will be on my show around December 20th. We're dropping the episode, and we're going to just talk about everything that's happened in the world of gaming in the last year and all the predictions, I guess, for the future. And with that said, too, I get approached by a lot of indie game designers, and my interviews tend to be of more I guess seasoned designers, people that have been in the industry for a long time. And the purpose of those is to educate or inform people that are aspiring designers. But I'd also like to help indie designers a little bit more. So I've got some ideas to help promote indie designers. So if you have a game that you're getting ready for Zine Month and Zine Quest, which is in February, just reach out to me. And I know Logar is the same thing. Reach out to Logar if you got something going on. And it's a busy time for you, isn't it, Logar, in February?
Oh, if you got something that you're going to be putting, so here's the deal. There's a form on our website. Let me put this out there. I've had to put there because I had been organizing this all through social media. That's hard to keep up with. We have, you go to wobbliesandwizards.com. There's a link at the top. I don't even remember what it says. Something like come onto this show or something. Fill that out and send it, and I will not get right back with you. I'm sorry. I don't work in the day. I'm not around computers, so I can't respond to things. I work very physical labor type stuff, so it ain't like, you know what I'm saying? But I will get to you when I can, and it's become a lot. And I'm trying to get the folks, if you've submitted something on our website to our forum, because we got a few pages of folks who have, I've tried to send out at least a touch base thing to everyone. I'm reaching out as soon as I can and responding to y'all. I'd love to hear from you. If you're doing Zine Quest, early is better than late, because I had a hard time getting folks in the last few times, and it gets really hectic and crazy around then. If you're coming to me even a few weeks, like a week or two before you start, I'm not sure I can even get you on to record that quick at this point sometimes. So it just depends. Earlier is always better. So I'll put that there.
Yeah. And with that said, also you can go to daikugames.com. My contact information is there. And like I said, I've got some ideas percolating on how I can better support indie designers that aren't like the seasoned designers, like, you know, the Steve Jacksons of the world that I've been interviewing. So hopefully we can work something out. Go to daikugames.com. My contact information is there, or reach out to me on social media. So with that said, Logar, we are at the tail end of our 2022 best of wish list. How did anything pop out to you as far as like things that you wish you would have put on the list or thought of?
I do want that Death in Space really bad. There's definitely quite a few that I wanted to, like, here I had a hard time narrowing it down to 3 for my favorite, or even for my ones, because there was some great stuff people put out this last year. I think my deciding factor of going with Hyperborea 3rd edition by Jeffrey Delaney is the fact that we do play it weekly. I feel that that's kind of that kind of says something, or bi-weekly. That kind of says something. Yeah, it's been a good year for games. A lot of good.
Cool. Well, I just want to say, once again, thank you for joining me on this podcast and the live stream. And I want to wish everybody a happy holidays. I know it can be a rough time for a lot of people, and hopefully our little stream brings a little joy to your day. And thanks again for Logar and all the watchers, and I want everybody to have safe and happy holidays. So Logar, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's been a good time.
Okay, we'll have to do this again sometime. The Low Garry show.
The Low Garry. Oh my goodness, it's a strange amalgam.
Okay, bye everybody.